Waltham from McPherson.
The podium, right, and stuff. It's a little bit abbreviated this year. You know, we had the DA last year. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, not me. She was asking.
Raising it right now? Okay. All right, good. Yeah,
I mean, that was just awesome.
Yeah, that was.
Because we know they do.
Good afternoon. My name is Deanne Gomes-Stanley. I'm the president of the Greater Fall River Domestic Violence Coalition and the Domestic Violence Specialist for the Women's Center at STAR. We gather today at Government Center to kick off Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you, Mayor Correia, for letting us use this space and for leading us with the flag raising today. Today we're going to call upon some familiar voices to share, speak up, and educate about the seemingly never-ending battle against domestic violence. We will also bring forward someone who works in the trenches, who helps all of us in our fight. These are community leaders, and they are all champions for the many victims and survivors who sometimes can't speak for themselves. First up, we'd like to hear from the Honorable Jasiel F, Mayor of Fall River, who will present the proclamation and kick off Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
State Representative Cabral, a woman who I truly admire in our community, both from a leadership perspective, a friendship perspective, and truly an honor to have her here, President, representing us at the state level up at the State House. So thank you. Give her a round of applause. I actually want Captain Cabral to read the proclamation for me today because the police department needs to be represented in this initiative as well. So he's going to be reading the proclamation for me on behalf of the Mayor's office today. I wanted to be here physically because of the issue and how important it is. And I looked over to the right and I was sitting down and I saw from this day on that I promised to be part of the solution. That's a very powerful statement, and it really is important. It's something that I want to be part of. I want to help. I know that it's about the drug-free. It says drug-free violence for the community, and that's something that is extremely important to our community. So whatever the city can do to help move this initiative forward will be very, very important. Working closely with the police department, who's done a fabulous job working with our district attorney's office as well. And together, we can be the solution to end domestic violence. So thank you. Captain Cabral, I want to come up with the formal proclamation. We'd be honored to have you. Give Captain Cabral a round of applause.
Good afternoon. Mayoral proclamation, City of Fall River, whereas the crime of domestic violence is not confined to any specific group of people, but crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and societal barriers. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, health, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse. And whereas approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year. And whereas important partnerships have been formed among criminal and juvenile justice agencies, healthcare providers, allied professionals, and victim services to assist victims of domestic violence and their families. Whereas in Massachusetts, 12 females and 1 male and 2 children were murdered last year by domestic violence. Whereas the United States President and Congress, as well as other federal agencies in the state of Massachusetts, have expressed a commitment to eliminating domestic violence both nationally and internally. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by domestic violence programs, victim service providers, and the local Greater Fall River Domestic Violence Coalition, I, Jasiel F. Correia II, as Mayor of the City of Fall River, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and reaffirm the city's commitment to ending domestic violence in our community. Signed, Jasiel F. Correia II, Mayor of Fall River.
These women literally sat at their table over a cup of tea or other drink. I don't mean that to be funny. And we kind of mobilized all of our efforts to look at how do we even approach this topic. So we started with hotlines and we started with shelters, but we quickly learned that that wasn't enough. So we have certainly come a long way from grabbing spaces where we could to meet women where we could. So in the next 2 minutes, I want to talk about taking a step back and reflecting. I think when we're in a movement or any kind of cause that started with a movement, we need to reflect back and say, no, even though there's so much more work to be done individually, as a community, we've really come a long way. I personally have been in this movement for 40 years. So I can attest personally all of the programs that now participate, all of the legislation that's occurred, and everything that is in place to support our efforts. So as we worked with women and children, and we realized that we needed more support, we started reaching out for grants. Instead of working from the bottom up, things started happening from the top down. We started to get more long-term community support. We started to get grants. The federal government, the state government, and local communities started to support our work. 40 years and many, many walks and vigils later, and events such as this today, this is where we have landed. So over the past few decades, I'm going to give you a list of who is really on board. And I don't just mean who signs a memorandum of agreement when we're writing grants, or who says, I'm there with you, but who literally writes grants with us, shares money with us, shares space with us, and the list is just amazing. So on board are the STAR program. We're a community-based program, and I think most people think of domestic violence with shelters. Thank God shelters are there, but many women choose not to go to shelters. So we realized, not just we, but the community, that we needed something or a program and people who understood trauma-informed work. And that's what we do at STAR, and I think that's what we do with all of our programs. STAR has a domestic violence specialist, that's Deanne, who you met, director, and also a trauma-informed psychotherapist, as Suzanne, who's here today. We have 2 court advocates, one in district court, one in probate court, and a civilian police advocate in the Florida Police Department. So knowing that's our core, on top of that, these are the supports you have. And I know we have a lot of consumers here today, and I want to give them a shout out without singling them out, because I think it's really important that you are what has driven our work, and you are who will probably continue this work with us. And you're really filling seats today, and I think that's wonderful. So besides STAR and our Sister's Place, which is a local shelter run by New Bedford Women's Center, we have STAR's DPH State Certified Batteries Intervention Program, and there's a new name for it. It's called State Certified Intimate Partner Abuse Education Program. And many of you know Dan Buckley, and we know that program is big. We have local hospitals. We no longer say, do you mind if I put a brochure in the waiting room? They're on board. They've changed protocols and policies and universal screenings, asking people, not just women, because we know men can be abused as well, and women certainly can be perpetrators, but they screen. It's a universal precaution. So if you go in with a broken leg, don't ask you if you're afraid of somebody in your life. We have doctor's offices who call us. We have school departments in the Katie Brown Educational Fund who is here today. And they go into schools with a very, what's the word I want, but a good curriculum, teaching the children about from bullying to teen dating violence and beyond. We have churches and temples and synagogues, and we've had faith-based task forces trying to work on the same issue with us. In Fall River, we happen to have a grant, and we have a specialized DV unit and civilian police advocate who's here today. We have the Bristol County District Attorney's Office also represented here today and on board working with a lot of domestic violence cases that we see in court. State and local legislators, our mayor, so a judge, Judge Macy is here, attorneys, Department of Children and Families, even banks are on board with us. Legislation that's fairly new in the last year for housing and employers concerning domestic violence, food banks, homeless shelters, Boy Scouts and Girl Scout troops. Badges have certainly changed since I was a Girl Scout. They have community service. The Girl Scouts have a domestic violence badge, so you can never stop too young. And certainly all of you, our families and our friends and bystanders. So my point is, we all make a difference in some small way or some large way. And you will never know. You will never know. But just pay it forward, and someday somebody may or may not say, you know, I remember you. If it wasn't for something you said, it could be a sentence you said. It could be just something you offered them as assistance. But know that we all make a difference. And the overall awareness of domestic violence and in bringing more abusers to justice as well as continued support and safety training for victims of domestic violence is what it's all about. So I just want to end by saying again, we have come a long way. I can stand up here and give statistics about how horrific the crime is, and it is horrible. It affects children and it affects school grades and school adjustment. But we're going to look at the positive today because we have come a long way and we hope to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. At this time, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank my fellow members of the Greater Fall River Domestic Violence Coalition. You all have shown how much of a priority DV and DV awareness is through your professional and volunteer services and by always giving your time and talents to the coalition. Thank you all for your passion and for your continued efforts and commitment. At this time, I would like to call up our keynote speaker. Assistant District Attorney Kyle McPherson accepted our invitation without hesitation. He has tirelessly worked to be that calming support for victims maneuvering through the criminal justice system. His compassion and caring demeanor have made him stand out as a dedicated ADA and as a leader in the domestic violence field. I am honored to introduce to you Kyle McPherson.
Good afternoon. So my name is Kyle McPherson, and I'm the Assistant District Attorney responsible for prosecuting domestic violence crimes in the Fall River Justice Center at the District Court level. And I've probably said that to hundreds of women over the last few years that I've been doing this. Before I get started on anything else, I'd like to thank 3 women who make it extremely not easy, but much easier to do my job. And that's Andrea Miranda, Jillian Kirsch, and Micah Rodriguez, the other members of what we call the DV team over at the Justice Center. It's difficult work because right now I had to literally grab all 3 of them before we walked over here and take them away from cases that they're actively working on in order to get them to take a few minutes to come over, and I'm glad they did. And the reason that it's difficult to get them to come over is because they're so busy. Because right now, I guarantee you, the phone is ringing, 911 is being called, the police officers are responding to a woman somewhere in this city getting assaulted, getting punched, getting kicked, getting thrown down, with no regard for her safety. And they'll be in tomorrow, hopefully, at the arraignment. The police officers will have done everything they can possibly do to ensure that that situation is handled appropriately, and that evidence is collected, that there are reports that document exactly what happened to her. They'll take her statement, they'll take pictures, they'll collect evidence, and then he'll be brought in for arraignment. And I will say this, if there's a law enforcement organization that has done more or is trying to do more to curb domestic violence than the Fall River Police Department, I don't know who they are. because I have literally spoken with probably every single member of that department about this issue, because my boss makes me. I have many bosses, and Courtney Cahill, my supervisor on these issues, came up with the idea of training of the district attorney's office doing the in-service training for the police department, so they could know what we're looking for, what's important, so that the cases will become stronger, and so that essentially men who assault women or partners that assault their partners are held accountable. And that's our mission. The district attorney's office, led by Tom Quinn, I believe a few months ago at a press conference, the DA was disgusted by some cases that came in, horrible assaults on women, and he said some words to the effect he was going to declare a war on that issue. Well, I was, in a former life, a naval officer, and one of the goals when you declare war on someone is that you want to make it very uncomfortable for that person to be able to wage war back. You want to make it so that they no longer want to engage in the fight. And Micah, Andrea, and Jill all helped me, I think, in making it uncomfortable and unpleasant and not a very good experience to be someone who assaults their partner. Because that, to me, is the most effective way to prevent the crime in the future. Is that first time when she's assaulted, when she's kicked down the stairs, when she's punched, when she's got a hot piece of metal placed on her back, when she's 9 months pregnant and he wraps his hands around her throat. That first time, it's going to be uncomfortable for that individual. We have stepped up the amount of dangerousness hearings that we request. We seek to hold the defendants, we seek to hold them prior to trial. We also seek to separate the victims from the offenders, in oftentimes ways that don't make myself or Jill or Micah or Andrea very popular in the courthouse. Because we use every legal mean and tool and opportunity at our disposal to show a victim of what the day without the abuser can be like. And I'm not going to ramble about, tell war stories, but there's one case I think that crystallizes it. Myself and Micah got the case. A man comes in, he assaults his girlfriend who he has children with, and after he gets done assaulting her and breaking her jaw, he sends her to school to pick up the kids because he doesn't want the school to call back all upset that she's late picking up the kids. He has no thought that anyone will care that a woman is coming to pick up her child with a broken jaw that he put there. And so a police officer gets called to the scene because a school department official knew something was wrong. The police officer talks to her, they take the report, and he was held as a danger. She sought mental health treatment while the case was pending. And every single time that case came in, I was told, your victim is crazy. You got him away for the night, just give it up. Who cares? Literally, that's what you're told. Who cares? Micah cared. I cared. The district attorney's office cared. I know the police cared because they sent people out there to investigate. Put them in harm's way, so they care. And we were able to speak to this woman who had a history of some mental health issues and had a history of some drug issues. And she sat in the witness stand, terrified, because she knew what was coming. She was going to be ripped apart by the defense attorney. And as a prosecutor, I had to sit there and listen to him in basic, very kind words, call her a prostitute, call her a junkie, basehead, a loser, and an unfit mother. And she sat there very calmly. She answered all of his questions. And the jury was out for 15 minutes, which as a prosecutor is a terrifying thing. When you don't even have time to really go grab a drink of water before the court officers are running up to you going, "Jury's back." Well, that ain't good. And I remember the defense attorney, this good person, leans into me and says, "You should have taken this at pretrial probation, or you should have taken this well before this, before you basically got made to look like a fool." There were 4 charges. And I've done, as I said, I was a naval officer in a former life. And I've done some very exciting and interesting things. But I don't know if I've ever been as excited as when the foreperson of the jury, when they got down to the 3rd charge, said, "Oh wait, that's the one he's guilty on." And the defense attorney just looked at me, stunned, because people cared. And so there are many cases, many cases that unfortunately he was sentenced to 2 years. He had never been convicted of a crime of domestic violence in his life. And there are many cases that unfortunately don't resolve that way. But the message that we send to every victim, and I'm not this aggressive. I believe the kind introduction talked about my gentle demeanor and very nice things, and I promise I'm very gentle at those times. Because to look into a woman's eyes that have been hollowed out by violence, by assault, called every name you can possibly call someone, done everything you can possibly do to them. What can you do but be gentle and kind? And then the defendant takes a stand, and I turn into this, which is fine. But the message that I try to get across to every victim, every time, is that it counts. Even the victims that come in and recant, and they blow up the prosecution, and they do whatever they can to make myself and Jill and Micah and Andrea, even Courtney's lives, more difficult. When he is arrested again, they are treated with the same dignity and respect that they deserve. I signed the banner last year. The banner says, "From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution in ending violence against women." And I would encourage every one of you, whether you're an elected official, a police officer, a victim advocate, or a victim, to do more than sign the banner, to do whatever it takes buy that when it's July and your friend's wearing a turtleneck sweater. When you haven't seen your girlfriend in 6 months. When she's nervous to be around other people. Talk to her and ask her what's going on, whether you signed the banner or not. And someone, because I used to, when you become an attorney, there's all sorts of different names for you. I'm sure the police officers could name a few. And there's all sorts of different nicknames that give you a counselor, an advocate, and all this stuff. And I am the DB guy. That's how I race up and down the corridors at the Justice Center all day long, chasing down domestic violence. And I'm proud of that title. I think I wear it with pride, and I try to wear it well. But I had somebody the other day in the profession ask me, why would you do that? From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution in ending violence against women. I have a 10-year-old daughter. And I think if we do our part, that she will hopefully not have to see these banners and these pamphlets. On behalf of the District Attorney, Tom Quinn, I would like to thank everyone for their kind attention. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That was very, very powerful, and I really, really appreciate everything that you do, everything that the DA's office does, everything that our police departments do. All of you, everyone that's here has a part in fighting domestic violence. And we couldn't do this without all of you. So thank you very much. As many of you are aware, last year we were led by the men in the White Ribbon Campaign. Once again, we are asking all of the men present today to sign the pledge, to take the oath, to spread the word about, and to stop the silence around domestic violence. At the closing of this, we would ask you all to come up, take the pledge, sign the banner if you have not done so already. It is mainly geared to the men because they are the voices that we need to have behind us as well. And that is what the White Ribbon Campaign is about. Take some of the cards, take some of the pins, take them to your friends. They can sign the pledge as well. Take it to your sons, your nephews, cousins, brothers, whoever. All of the important men in your life. Educate them about this as well. And hopefully we'll have them all here with us next year. So on behalf of the Greater Domestic Violence Coalition, I again want to thank all of you for your time, for all of your support, and for being here with us today. To our leaders who spoke today, I can't begin to express my gratitude enough. I'd like to give a very special thank you to Captain Joseph Cabral for your commitment not only to this event, the White Ribbon Campaign, but especially the dedication that you've given to domestic violence and to our coalition. Before we start the networking and food grabbing, we're going to grab the pledge, and actually I would like Kyle to come up and read the pledge for us, please.
Do I have to make everyone stand up like a judge?
We have a little shots. We have pledge cards, if anyone is going to pass them, would like to participate. It's going to the men, so. This movement was started by men.
So this is the pledge. I will promote respect, dignity, and equality. I will speak out against attitudes and behaviors that contribute to sexual assault and domestic violence. I will remind myself and others that gender violence is a men's issue that affects all of us, regardless of our backgrounds and identities. I will confront sexism, homophobia, racism, and other forms of oppression. I will find out how to help when I suspect that someone I know is a victim or offender of sexual assault or domestic violence. From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution in ending violence against women.
Thank you all for your coming in today and enjoy. Have some refreshments from the tap house. We thank them very, very much for being here with us today. Thank all of you for coming and have a great afternoon.
You're an attorney, you just signed Carl.
Thank you.